Okay, live on Facebook, live on webinar. Good afternoon, everybody from the Southern Hemisphere, and good morning to those on the Northern Hemisphere. We welcome you to our Green Room webinar, and we've got an exciting webinar once again. As always, we are so grateful for the people that we are able to have on this webinar, and it's a truly blessing to have the quality and expertise of people in their fields to chat to us and take out time of their busy days to come and talk to us about what they do. So let's see who we have as attending so far here. We've got a couple of Amelia, Tinnis, and a couple of others. Welcome, guys. Welcome. And those on Facebook, thank you for joining us for this live webinar. This is Trevor and Lenny. Trevor, you want to give us an intro there and let's get this show on the road.
Yes, absolutely. Once again, we're excited about the webinar today. And as Lenny mentioned, it's so nice when we've got these guests with us that it can give us their expertise and knowledge in the wealth of experience. So guys, as Lenny mentioned, it's Trevor Thomas and Lenny de Villiers. We're business partners in a wonderful company called Induku Group. It's expanding rapidly as we speak, and what we do is we help people that would like to get to America. And if it's your dream that you'd like to get to America and live your dream as per the title of our program, then please get hold of one of us or anyone in the Induku Group, and let's see how we can help you change your life and live your dream. So we've also got a couple of programs in terms of investments programs, an E2 visa, as well as the EB3 employment-based visa. But if you'd like more information about that, visit our website, or you can alternatively get hold of any of us. Len, you want to maybe just touch on the Green Room, and then we can introduce John to our people.
Yes, still. Thank you, Trevor. Yes, guys, the Green Room, as we mentioned, is this amazing little space that was created from COVID, not the virus itself, but the opportunity for it. And has given us an opportunity to speak to our applicants and people that want to immigrate anywhere in the world. So relevant to immigration, there is emotional part of it. There is relocation on certain things. So we have covered all these topics with the relevant experts that we have found in their fields. And like I said in the beginning, we are so grateful that we have found people that are so great. I mean, we have been blessed with people that have got degrees as long as Trevor and Maya's arms, and they have taken the time to come and, given us a little bit about their what they've experienced in their journeys. So what we always do is, and tell people in our programs, that this is such an adventure. Doing everything around immigration is an adventure. You have decided to move to another country for whatever reason it might be. It is an adventure, yes, but there are a lot of obstacles and choices you have to make down the road. And because not a lot of people do immigration more than once in their lives, is that they find that there are things that they would have done differently. And this is what the Green Room actually does for you, is that we've done over 40 of these Green Room now webinars, where we've touched on various topics, and there's a lot of topics that we are getting, as we are going through the program as well. We are thinking of more avenues and topics we can touch on. And once again, we urge our applicants and people that maybe are not even in our program, that want us to touch and talk to certain avenues on whatever topic you may have for us, that we will do the research on it, and we will get the relevant people that can come and talk around the topics. Okay, but today we have got a wonderful gentleman called John Palumbo. He is all the way in America, and we don't always have a lot of people from America on this site, because we've got the people that do our immigration as Visa Solutions. A lot of them are Mexican, so having people that have got the native tongue, or sounds like they live in America, which is actually pretty cool to have them on the site, because you're sending people to America after all. So John, I have read your bio that Tambo has helped us type up, and she does all our research. She does wonderful, wonderful work. We might look like the people that have got it, do all the research, and she makes us look like rock stars, but she does all the history and the research on all the panelists. So John, she's typed up a long bio here, and it is incredible. And when I read it, I would go, John sounds like he's 100 years old because he's done so much. He's written close to half a dozen books, and he has built properties all over the world and spoken to various people on stages all over the world. John, I'm going to hand it over to you rather, because I think the half an hour that we've got, it would probably be me just reading your bio. So on that, can you just maybe give us a little bit of a background of who you are, where you're from, a bit about your story. That's all you ask, please.
Good morning, and I'm glad to be here with you this morning and with your listeners and viewers. As you had mentioned, not only do I look like I'm from the U.S., I am from the U.S., even though I am of Italian descent. I am a good old American, and for those that are listening and can detect the dialects, you can tell I'm from the southern part of the United States, not the northern part, which has a crystal clear different dialect. But, my business globally began many years ago, and sometimes I share this story with people. They say, when did you start your thirst for travel and owning real estate outside of the U.S.? And it literally started many, many years ago with buying, believe it or not, a timeshare. And sometimes people will laugh at that and they'll say, what kind of real estate is that? Well, you have to get your feet wet somewhere. And believe it or not, just buying a tiny portion of a timeshare unit outside of the country can be harrowing, especially if you don't know what's going to happen with your money, the exchange of the money. You're in a foreign country. They speak a foreign language. Their currencies are different. So that was my first foray into owning real estate outside of the United States. And I liked it. I began to go and use it, and I realized I wanted to explore further. And over the years, it has led me to work with builders, developers throughout Latin America, South America, Europe, and the housing industry, specifically into the new homes industry. So I've worked with builders and developers all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, Central America, South America, and I enjoy the industry. So this morning, I hope I can answer some of your questions, give your viewers some insights into owning real estate, whether it's in the U.S. or outside of the U.S., and try to calm some of the nerves of what is it like to take my hard-earned money and take it to another country and put it down on something where, for instance, I have people ask me all the time, they'll say, aren't you scared that they will take your property? Aren't you scared the government will confiscate your goods and take it? And my answer is always the same. The government's already got plenty of property. They don't want my property. They want my money. And the only way they get my money is when I come and visit and eat and socialize. And it's the same in the U.S. When foreigners come to the U.S., they're not going to take your property. They want your money. They want you to come spend it. They want you to be in the culture. They want you to pay taxes. So they welcome you mostly in all of these countries. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks very much, John. So nice, man. John, so obviously in America, specifically at the moment, you guys have just come out of an electoral place. We've also obviously all experiencing worldwide COVID-19. Talk us a little bit about what's happening in the marketplace. I mean, from what Lenny and I can see, there's certainly an uptrend in terms of property at the moment. How do you view it currently as we stand today, and what you see going forward in perhaps the next sort of 12, 24 months?
Well, in the U.S. right now, the markets are very robust. And so if someone is looking to own real estate, now is certainly a good time to buy. Unfortunately, the market has tightened up a little bit. And so it's become a bit of a seller's market as opposed to a buyer's market. But let me just share with you a psychology about people. When it becomes a proverbial buyer's market, especially for foreign buyers, they don't want to buy because no one else is buying. And there's a fear of making a mistake when they buy, because if no one else is buying, why should I invest my money? So while people are buying is usually when other people look to buy. And right now you can still get relatively good values in the United States in good areas. And the real key is if you're coming in and getting financing, our financing rates are the lowest they've been in history, literally for the last 30 years. So a lot of times foreign buyers will come in and bring cash, but there's a point where you can get financing if you put down enough money, typically 50% down, and you can get 50% financing with almost no qualifying. There are plenty of lenders that do that. But if you're coming in and wanting to get 100% financing and you're coming from another country, that gets harder to do. But with enough money down, you can certainly get financing and still get some good buys here in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, it's truly, it's the same with here in South Africa at the moment. Obviously, with COVID, governments also dropped, the Reserve Bank also dropped interest rate to 50-year lows. And everybody was thinking, hold on, this is going to be so bad for the property market. No one's going to buy or sell. And at the moment, it's slowly turning into a seller's market because the banks are being a bit more lenient because people are going, I've got more, the people that actually are still got jobs, going, I've got more money to play with. And the banks are actually giving the people the financing required. So it could be a worldwide type of thing as well, which is pretty good. And that's where you want to put your money, is in something that's a good asset, is a property. But on that, John, I mean, America is obviously a very big place, and it's got over 300 million people compared to South Africa, that's got 60 odd million people. And what we sometimes struggle with is to, compare the scale to America, so. And also to understand, because they've got so many different states, people are actually, when people in South Africa move, they move from Johannesburg down to either Cape Town, we call it semigrate. When people are not ready to either leave the country and go to Australia or New Zealand, they go down to Cape Town. And then, or people move to Durban when they retire. But I mean, we see a similar thing happening in America at the moment, but it's more because of affordability and what you get for your buck. We see a lot of people moving from the metropoles like New York, San Francisco, Seattle, to more provincial states like Texas, because you're getting more bang for your buck. Is that what you guys are still seeing over that side, or what are your predictions going forward there?
The biggest migration is from north to south, which Texas would be considered the South. Florida is considered the South. Alabama and Georgia are considered in the South. And so those areas have become very popular, what's called bellwether states, in that not only are they good economically, but climate-wise. As the populace is aging and the boomers are aging, and those just below the boomers are aging, they look for warmer climates. They look for nicer environments. Florida has been a hotbed for that. And so the Florida market has been really good in the last few years. Texas has been good for that. Texas, of course, has got lots of land. And you can certainly go into the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston. But when you get outside of those cities and get out into the more rural areas, you're going to make some better buys out in those areas. But again, you're away from, the further away you get from facilities, the better the price gets. So there's a trade-off no matter what you do. The closer into facilities you want to be, the more you're going to pay. The further away, the less it's going to be. So you're trading one for the other.
John, so obviously you are in America, but you've got property portfolios all over the world. For someone like Lenny and myself that's in this program at the moment, and we're going to be coming through to America, looking to perhaps invest in property, look at maybe getting a rental income, or perhaps buy property. What would your advice be to someone like Lenny and myself coming from South Africa, looking at something like that? We don't know anything about the American market.
I think if you said, John, we're going to come to the States and we want to buy some property, my first advice would be, I would ask you a few questions. I'd say, do you have some time to spend here? And are you going to spend time here? Or are you just looking to invest in property here and go back home? That's my first question. So tell me that. Would you be looking to invest and go back home, or do you want to move here and live?
No, so it would be a permanent residency.
Okay. Then my answer gets much easier. My advice would be to come over and find a place to rent for 1 year.
Right.
That would be what you would do. And you would rent for 1 year. You would first have to select the city and the area of the country you want to be in, the north or the south, the east or the west. Once you've narrowed that down, then you've got to narrow it down even further. You've got to get into that micro where you decide what city appeals to you. So if you're just coming over, you do your homework on the internet. Once you decide on a region, or I would just get to a region with, say, 100-mile radius, or a couple of 100-kilometer radius, and then you rent an apartment for 12 months. That's a normal lease here in the States, is 12 months. Okay. Then you take your time. You shop during the week or on the weekends, whatever your time allows. If you're working via internet, or if you actually get a physical job in the U.S. with someone that you're working with, you would carry on your work-related activities. But I have known so many people that have done this, and they'll come over and buy something immediately, and all of a sudden they say, I wish I had gotten somewhere else. I wish I'd bought somewhere else. By taking that 12 months to breathe, you're definitely going to get a much better idea of values, market, areas that you like. Do you prefer the inner city? Do you prefer being on the suburbs, or do you prefer being a little further out in the rural areas? And so those are key, especially if you're going to spend anywhere from 1, 2, 3, 400,000 US dollars. I think just taking that little extra time, that 1 year, to make it the perfect buy, not just a good buy, a perfect buy, you're going to do yourself a lot of justice. And especially right now, where next year, this market that we see that is surging in the first or second quarter of next year, we could see tone down just a little bit. So you're able to select something within 6 to 8 months and then close on it within a few months later and fulfill all your wishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. And it's very good for us to also assess schools and stuff like that as well. So rental might make it a little bit easier because you might be a bit more mobile as well. Just to give you some background on our program, John, is that we've got 2 programs. The one is an EB3 that gets you through to America with a green card, but you've got to be based in Houston or North Dakota for the first for the first bit. And then obviously we've got the E2 program that is an investor's visa, and with that you actually invest in property. That gets that part of your investment is you're investing in property in either Houston or whatever areas that they've got through various channels that we've got companies set up already. But yeah, so John, I mean, just on the back of that, for people that are coming to America and now they are very, very eager to buy a house, and you just touched on it a little bit. I mean, where do most entrepreneurs, so for instance, so now you've gone and you've bought a home and now you decided, listen, I've got a bit of experience in, being an entrepreneur and I want to go into real estate. I mean, where do most entrepreneurs go wrong when it comes to real estate investments?
Your question is where do most entrepreneurs go wrong when it comes to real estate investing? It's not doing their homework. And their homework is what I had suggested at first. Instead of rushing in and looking at a few things and trying to make an investment within a couple of weeks, that's the wrong thing to do. There's more than just buying the property. There's a lot more than just buying the property. It's understanding culturally where that property is. If you're buying it as an investment, then you're probably going to want to rent it out for a few years. And so you want to determine, is this the clientele of people that you want to rent to? Is the property going to carry itself financially for what you're investing in it? Understanding intimately the US dollar compared to the structure of money from the country you're coming from, because that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. For instance, when US people go to other countries as tourists, where do you think these countries make their most money? They make it from tourists with the currency exchanges, and tourists all over the world get caught with that. And so just coming here and not really understanding the currency, the intimacy of the currency, can be a huge difference. You could pay anywhere from 10, 15, 20, or 30% more for a property if you're not careful. And just negotiating a price doesn't always get you the best value. If you go in and say, well, they're asking 300,000 US dollars and you bought it for 250, doesn't mean you got a value. It just means you bought something less than what they were asking. So to understand the intimacy of the currency is number one. The next thing is to understand, are you wanting to buy something that you're going to fix up and make repairs to, which you will definitely get a much better buy for. If you have the tenacity and the stomach to work with contractors and people who do sheetrock and woodwork and tile work, and you're able to bring that together, you can certainly get a better buy. Or are you wanting to buy new construction? In other words, an area that a builder is working with and they're developing property so that all you do is walk in from a turnkey, buy it, furnish it, or leave it unfurnished and just turn around and rent it. But understanding the labor workforce, in other words, the craftsmen that can help you get some of the things done in that investment property. And here's a key element to owning property in another country when you're not leaving there. This is very important, is having eyes and ears there for you. I'm going to give you an example. I own some property in Mexico. And about a month and a half ago, Hurricane Delta went through that area. And I could show you pictures right now and you would go, oh my gosh, because yes, some of the roof was taken out, the walls came down, and my housekeeper, who has been with me for almost 15 years, a very trusted person, was there within hours, snapped pictures, sent them back to me, and my first words out of my mouth were, thank you, go get Mikhail. And she says, well, it's early, he's probably asleep. I said, go wake him up, get him over here and get him working. And she says, what's the hurry? I said, because by the end of the day, everybody's properties down here have been devastated by this hurricane. And he's going to have all the work he needs and we're going to not be able to get materials. She said, sure. Well, I can go. I said, don't say anything else to me. Just go to Miguel's house right now and get him. She got him. He started working that day. And within 2 weeks, my property was put back together. Now, I was just down there the other day. There are people there that can't get materials, they can't get labor, and they're going to be at least 6 months getting their homes put back together. So the reason I tell you that story is if you don't have eyes and ears on the ground in another country where you own property, it's going to be difficult. That's the reason you get in there and make your connections, whether it's a housekeeper, whether it's a trusted carpenter, or whether it's a neighbor, someone that you have a camaraderie with, someone that you can trust, that when you're not there, they can put the eyes on the property, they can walk to the property, they can assess what's going on. And nowadays, with between cell phones and videos and Zoom calls and pictures, they help you manage your property. Without that, this is just one man's perspective. Don't buy property if you don't have eyes and ears on the ground where you own property. I have that at every property that I own. I have that trusted individual that takes me sometimes a few months to find them. But once I find them, they're worth their weight in gold. So there's the tip of the day. Eyes and ears on the ground are what you need if you're going to invest in another area other than your backyard.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So,
John, two things that we've learned from today, extremely important lessons. First, do your homework, right? Second thing, have someone with eyes and ears on the ground. Talk to us a little bit, John, if you don't mind. How do you see American market in comparison to the other markets at the moment that you have investments in?
Other markets right now you can get some better values in some other markets because the U.S. is surging a little. If you were to ask me, should you buy right now in the U.S., my advice would be wait till after the first or second quarter of next year. I think the pandemic is going to have a much greater effect on the housing market. After we get past the first or second quarter of next year, I think you're going to see a slight reduction in some prices, a slightly better. That doesn't mean you got to wait forever. Just give it a little breathing room. So if someone were coming over right now, the timing is perfect. You're going to spend a few months looking. You're going to be looking for your eyes and ears on the ground. You can find an area. And again, my perception is first or second quarter, you're going to see prices begin to level out just a little bit, and you'll make just a little better buy. In some of the areas of the world, there's great values. I'm working with a developer right now in Brazil, and we can sell you an oceanfront property for about $150,000. I'm talking about 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, right on the ocean. So you're not going to get that in the United States at all. But if you're just looking for investment property, just give it till just after the first of the year. That's probably my suggestion and advice right now for U.S. buys.
Very good. John, I had a question in that and when I speak to people about, when they want to buy property in America, and we always say to people, obviously in our way, you obviously want to try and buy property in America as soon as possible. But on the back of what you said, listen, you don't just want to rush into things because of the different scenarios, but give us an idea of what the difference is between rental and, say, a mortgage. So to give you an idea, in South Africa, once again, like I said in the beginning, is we're trying to give people a perspective that live in South Africa to what it's like in America. So to give you an idea, in South Africa is your rental, you pay a lot less than what you pay towards a mortgage. Okay, it also depends on what area you are from and whatever. But we've picked up that a rental market in the US seems to be a little bit higher than the mortgage that you would have paid. Is that right?
That's somewhat right. Remember, the mortgage is only based on how much you're financing. So if you're buying, for instance, would 200,000 US dollars be a fair number to use for an example for you?
Yeah, between $200,000-300,000.
Okay, let's say $250,000. If you were to buy an investment property for $250,000, which, by the way, is sort of a sweet spot, that's a good point. Not too high, not too low. It's sort of a sweet spot. If you were to ask me in the U.S. right now, I would say 250 is the sweet spot. If you try to get a loan or mortgage on that property for $225,000, you're only putting down 10%. It may be hard to meet the mortgage note with the rental income. But if you're putting down 30 or 40%, in other words, if you're buying a property for $250,000 and you're only getting a loan for $125,000 or $150,000, your payment on that currently with interest rates might be, $1,100 or $1,200. You should be able to get about $1,500 to $1,800, maybe even $2,000 rent out of that. So everything is proportionate to how much cash you put in to begin with. If you're trying to get a high loan to value, meaning borrow a lot of money, you may not be able to meet the obligation. That's not bad. It just means you may break even or have to put a little bit in every month. But if you put down a fairly sizable amount, 20, 30, let's go at least 30 to 50%, yes, your rent should cover your mortgage payments. And in turn, the renters will pay your property off over a 10 or 15 year period. And that's really the objective. That's why we invest in property. We buy it at a good price. We rent it. We let the renters pay for the mortgages over the years. And then at the end, in a 10 or 15 year investment strategy, you end up with property that's free and clear. Hopefully 10 years from now or 15 years from now, what you paid $250,000 for today is worth $400,000 or $500,000, and it's free and clear, and it's been paid for by your renters. That's the simple objective of buying and investing in real estate. It's not a buy now, flip it, make some quick money. Foreigners are going to have a very difficult time doing that just because of their inability to understand the intimacy of the market. Those are for people who are really ingrained in the market and know how to dig deep and find the little nuances in a bargain and buy it and flip it. For someone who's not into that niche so deep, just buying a good quality product in a good area and getting decent financing and have your eyes and ears on the ground to watch out for you, it should give you a nice return on your investment over the years and work handsomely for you.
Yeah, great advice. John, so not so much relative to the webinar, but more for my for my sake, I wanted to know from you what's happening with commercial property currently in America. I mean, not that any of us would probably be investing in something like that, but commercial property relative to what's happened now with COVID and everybody doing business from home and not using offices. Are you experiencing what we're experiencing in South Africa, where everyone's moving out of office parks and we've got a lot of empty buildings in Sandton, et cetera, et cetera? Are you experiencing that in America as well?
The whole world is experiencing that right now. And what is happening is companies are realizing because they have been forced to do this, that they don't need those offices anymore. So we have not felt the true crunch of the commercial side of the business yet, because within 8 to 9 months of COVID, there's still people that believe they're going to go back. There's companies that are not sure what they're going to go back to. There are people that are being held into obligations of leases mortgages. And so there's a lot of things that are happening that no one clearly knows the answers to. So all I can do is give you one man's perspective. And I think if you're wanting to buy commercial property, give it a little more time. There could be some bargains there, but I do believe the world has made a permanent change, not a temporary change with COVID. Permanent for a lot of good things. You know, there are a lot of people making money out of COVID right now, a lot.
Yeah.
We don't hear about those. We only hear about the poor folks that have suffered and are, you know, and having a hard time. But there's a lot of money being made out of this economic crisis. And, you know, the Chinese believe that out of every crisis comes opportunity. And I'm a believer in that. Out of every crisis comes an opportunity. But to answer your question, every part of the world is experiencing that as the world is learning how to work differently. We're learning how to do these. I mean, just webinars like this were not really, 1 year ago, people were doing them, but they were not as commonplace as they are today. And so things are changing for the good. COVID is bringing a lot of good. It's bringing the world together closer, faster, and it's causing people to re-examine the old paradigms by which we did business. And so I see a lot of good things coming out of this. And whether it's commercial space that will go down in value, there will become another opportunity for those spaces. There will be a value for them. But if I were looking to invest and I said, I want some commercial space, I would say, hold on a little bit right now. Bargains are still coming. When COVID gets to an end, that's when we're going to see what's going to really happen. When a lot of these companies say, we don't need 40 offices anymore. Everybody's working from their home now, and we're making just as much money as we were making, paying, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in rent. That's when we're going to really see the true nature of what happens. Let me make one final note. I don't want to absorb all my time here. There are going to be a lot of companies that will also experience, we need our people back in the office. There are some people that just don't work well from home. They need to be in an office environment. They need the camaraderie of other people, and they need it in the form of getting their jobs done. They need supervision. They need people there. So not everybody is meant to work out of their home on a computer and a headset. So there's going to be just a change of the environments of what's happening there. And so I think that's what we're still waiting to see. The companies that don't need it versus the companies that realize they've got to have it.
Yeah, very, very interesting. It's gonna change still, and I think I agree with you. We just have to be patient in the commercial space. John, one final question from my side. Obviously, we've got people in our program that are obviously wanting to look at buying property as soon as possible, or maybe just invest. I mean, how, as a foreigner, you know, you mentioned in the beginning, if we are willing to put down a big enough deposit, what are the options foreigners have to invest in real estate without an established credit history?
Well, there's always private lenders, but you have to seek those out. There are smaller companies. You don't necessarily have to go to a big Bank of America or, you know, a Deutsche Bank or, you know, HSBC. These are the big institutional lenders who have very strict guidelines for lending. And some of those including residency in that country. In that they don't want foreigners, you know, they want people that are established there. They have a lot of criteria, and even the lending game has changed. But if they seek out smaller companies, smaller banks, smaller institutions, they're going to be more willing to invest in their communities. And they're not going to look as much as the borrower as they're going to look at investing in their community. They're taking the people who are investing in their banks and putting it back out into the communities. So that's one option that a foreigner should consider, is looking at a smaller institution, local lenders. Of course, there's always loan sharks. Stay away from those as much as possible.
We got this.
Don't fall into that trap. But I think the best advice here is work with smaller institutions that will look at you on a more personal level and take your collateral and your down payment and use common sense lending guidelines there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, I think that's excellent advice, John. And from my side, I want to thank you. It was excellent to just spend some time with you and get your insights on this. John, obviously you've written 5 books. There's a lot of information that we want to share with some of our guys about what you do and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if you'd like to, at this point in time, leave a place where people could get hold of your books, or if we can just post that for you later.
Sure, I'm glad to give some information how somebody can find out about me. The first thing you can do is always go to Google and just type in John Palumbo, and that's Palumbo. And I'll pretty much come to the top of your search engine. And you can go to my webpage, which is johnpalumbo.com, or you can click on Wiki. Wiki has done a wicked job of assimilating a lot of information. I've actually written over 10 books that have been bestsellers for the last few years, mostly in the housing industry. But for a lot of different subjects, from sales, marketing, management, increasing profitability, and working with sales teams and how to close sales, and just overall how to be better in life. So all of those books are available on our website. They're available on Amazon. If someone wants to drop me a note or has a question beyond what we're talking about here, I'm always glad to answer email. The easiest email for me is john@johnpalumbo.com. That'll come straight to me. I answer my own email most of the time. I do have a couple of assistants, and sometimes they will help me get them out. But I'm always glad to answer a question and give some ideas, suggestions, or recommendations as to whatever I can to assist somebody. I know what it's like to be a foreigner in another country, because I am a foreigner in other countries. And so I always appreciate those who befriend me. And so I'm always glad to share some insider expertise with somebody if I can help them.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you, John. This is really awesome.
Invaluable for people that have joined. I'm sure that some of them will reach out to you. A lot of our people have had lots of real estate questions, and I think that you've given them at least some contact details, and expect a few emails from them. And thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure, and
thank you.
hope we have a chance to talk again soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, John.
Thanks for your time, John.
My pleasure.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Good day.